Ready?
Yes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. It is Thursday.
Hello.
Happy Thursday. Sharea and I are here, and we are going to get started a little bit. I see that. Let's give it a couple minutes to let people come on in and join us. Again, you can join the Zoom webinar if you don't want to stay within the group. For privacy purposes, your name won't be shown. You can ask questions directly to us. Again, I have no idea what our Zoom number is, but it's in the group if you need it. Trying to see, is there people coming in? I can't see from my end.
That's what I'm looking at. It doesn't look like there's anyone there yet.
Let's give it a few seconds.
Wait, that's comments. Oh, wait, no, there's somebody there.
Hello, somebody.
Yeah, it says 3 people in, so that's like 2 other people other than me.
Okay. All right, so you want to get started?
Yes. So hello, everyone. We're so excited to have you all here. This is our weekly virtual support group as we are here offering information and resources and tools to help you to be able to navigate this time that we are in. So I'm Sharea. I am the intake coordinator and life coach at the RS Counseling and Wellness Center. And we have
Sharea Farmer. I am the executive director and lead therapist, I guess. Is there such a thing? At RS Counseling and Wellness Center.
Yes, and we are here today to talk about 4 ways to combat negativity in your life. So Sharea did put in or posted a quote earlier today, and so that is going to be the basis of our discussion when it comes to the tips that we are going to provide when it comes to rising above the negativity in your life.
Mm-hmm. And then we're going to talk our basic handling of stress at this time, kind of check in, see if people have questions about where they are, if we can support you in any area that we can be helpful in. We'll try our best. That said, I have to open up the quote. If you want to get started and just read the first one for us, and I'll talk about it.
Okay. All right. So with the first tip, it says, remember that your success does not require you to put others down. Remember that your success does not require you to put others down.
Right. That seems so simple. And most times it seems like we would all be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. However, a lot of times what happens when we see other people being successful, we see other people doing the things that we're interested in or would love to be known for or becoming experts in, it's easy for us sometimes to get a layer of envy/jealousy around that person's success. And it becomes important for you to check your own self so that you don't start being negative about the individual or the person who is representing the success that you would like to have. So I'm always, and this is definitely, I guess, a personality thing, I'm always excited when I hear like other people's success stories. And I remember when I was, I guess, maybe my first or second year into having my practice, and I shared some really good news with a friend, or what I thought was a friend at the time. And I could tell that the person it wasn't that they were unhappy. It was almost like a air of negativity, right? Where it's just like, I don't know why you're telling me this, or why are you getting that? And I'm kind of like at this place where I can't get things to move off in my life. And mind you, we're not in the same profession. We're not competitors in terms of like saying that person has a practice in my local area or something like that. It was none of that. It was strictly that somehow my success rubbed her the wrong way. And so you don't have to be negative about someone else's success if you aren't there or aren't where you want to be quite yet. So I always say the first thing to do to kind of like check your own envy/jealousy and check it in a way that's honest, right? Like, maybe I want something that person has. Maybe I want that reputation or like follower. I don't know what it is that they want, right? I guess maybe money, could be anything, right? But check yourself to kind of determine what could I do to get those things. And I'm going to talk about that one a little bit later. So what are your thoughts on the kind of like killing the negativity of others who are kind of jealous or may not acknowledge it? Maybe I don't want to say jealous. Just don't know how to be happy for your success.
Jealousy though. So so the first thing that came to mind, like just as you were sharing, was that if you are the person who is jealous of someone or envious, or you're not able to celebrate someone when they have success or they achieve some type of milestone, is that you're actually setting yourself up to continue to attract what you do not want. Mm-hmm. You know, when you're coming from a position of jealousy, envy, whatever it is, that it's not just a thought in that moment, that also then influences your thoughts even outside of that moment. And so if that's always your reaction to people when they achieve success, that means that your thought patterns is only going to see life in that way. And then that's going to affect your ability to do the work that you need to do so that you can experience the success that you want to see. When you have jealousy, you're going to continue to see the world from a jealous perspective. And it's going to cause you to be unsatisfied. It's going to cause you to continue to be jealous. And it's going to be a hindrance to your ability to really to be productive as well. And so just from an internal perspective, it's not healthy to have those type of thoughts. And we're not saying that, you know, there's something wrong with seeing success and saying, oh, I want to have that too. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about having a desire, that there's something wrong with desiring something else that someone has been able to accomplish, but it's more so like when you're jealous and envious and you're unhappy with the fact that this person has not achieved that, you're just setting yourself up to continue to be stuck in that cycle. And then if you're supposed to be friends with someone, that's just another level of just, the friendship isn't what we thought it would be. I remember there was this guy that I was talking to. We were not in a committed relationship, but we were talking and I shared some news with him that I was very excited about. And it shocked me just to hear that hesitation. And I could tell like, whoa, wait a minute. Because he had some other things. And again, it's somewhat similar because we are not in the same industry. So the goals that he was working on, he was actually in a place of stagnation, and understandably so, because he had a lot of things going on personally. And so with me is that he knew my background. And so he knew that I had to overcome some challenges, and it just came out the fact that he was upset that I was able to move along faster than he was. And
don't get me started. I dated a dude and I had to tell him, you liked me better when I was unhealthy. Like,
yeah, here's a transparent part, just to be transparent. It definitely affected my attraction to him and my way to connect with him, but I didn't let him go like right away, because I was like, you know what, maybe it's just this one time, maybe he's just having a bad day. But it turned out that it was a recurring pattern, and it was really hurtful because it, like Sharea just said, it made me wonder, like, so you liked me better when I was struggling and like going through like I mean, I'm not ashamed of my past, but I also don't want to stay there.
Exactly. There's a reason I work hard.
Exactly. And so when it comes to Sharea and I, so we do a lot of things together, but I want to constantly remind everyone that this relationship started off as a mentorship relationship. And the reason why I was drawn to to working with Sharea is because of the fact that she was so far ahead of me, and that I knew that it was that life hadn't been perfect or anything for her, but I saw the fact that she had gained so much wisdom. And even now with working with her, Sharea is so far ahead of me. But this relationship would not work at all as a mentorship that has developed into a friendship if I was jealous of her. Yeah, no, it's just like if you're going to, if you want to grow, if you want to be better, you can't have that type of negativity in your life where then you can't be around people who are further along than you, because what's going to happen, you're going to
And I was going to say, I always think that, I mean, from a business perspective, I never want to be the smartest person in the room. Like when it comes to like business decisions or things that like, because I can't grow if I'm the only one. If I'm the source of all the information or knowledge, I need to be able to know that someone knows more than me so that I can get more if I want my business to grow. So for me, I actually look at it as motivation, right? So, and I think because I look at it that way, I automatically think that people would be excited and happy for you. Cause I'm like, oh, I'm sharing this great news. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, you're going to be excited. And the reality was that's my own issue of thinking that someone else's success only motivates me, because it also, to me, like, especially, I'm going to just say this 100, when I see Black women winning, I'm like, oh, we all winning, right? Like, because it just good. And I mean, I also feel that way about advocating for them when bad things happen to them, right? So
yes,
it feels so good when I see us winning that I don't even go into the box of like, well, that should be me. I wish I had, because it's just really not a place for me. It doesn't fit me. However, what it did at that moment, it gave me a reality check that my way of navigating other success or people doing well is not the way that everyone else does. And I have to be okay with that. I can't take it personal. I can't make it, because I actually, and I will, just to be honest, I actually felt like in that moment, my normal loud and kind of like upright kind of personality kind of dimmed it to kind of fit the room. And I just kind of was like, all right, well, maybe we shouldn't talk about this. Like, almost like I shouldn't talk about my success because somehow it makes the other person feel bad. But the reality was that was where the relationship was evolving to. And next week, ladies, I don't know, I know normally I switch groups, but next week I'm actually going to try to do a conversation on this year's or this season of Insecure, because it's talking friendships and female friendships specifically. And I want to kind of really talk about it, but I want to wait till after this weekend to see how Molly does her relationship healing. So I'll tell Sharea to watch it over the next couple weeks, because I know she's like, what is that? I don't know.
No, I need to get caught up.
Yeah, even if you just watch the 5 episodes, so we can talk about it, because it really is reflective of the evolution of female friendships that also could go wrong, right? And when stuff goes wrong in our relationships, it sometimes damages our self-esteem and our image and how we see ourselves as females, or as women. And so I want to talk about that, but I want to wait till after this week. All right, let's talk about the next one. What's the next?
All right, you want to read that next one?
Mm-hmm. I sure will, Delina.
Or I can read it. Hold on. So it says, kill negativity with kindness to yourself and others.
Okay, so some of the work I was doing today actually is really helpful for this conversation. I was talking with a client who is struggling with advocating for herself within her sibling group, and her relationship with her one of her siblings is struggling right now. And she was trying to not embarrass the sibling, but it was starting to be at the cost of her.
Wow.
And so, but what that means though, is that you start having negativity about yourself as well as that other person. And so being able to really show compassion, and compassion meaning that you actually do an assessment of who is gaining if I'm negative. Am I actually benefiting from being negative in this moment? Am I actually benefiting? And most times you're going to find that the answer is no. Right? Because really, when it comes down to it, most relationships don't benefit from negative communication, negative conflict. And when I say negative, that doesn't mean confronting items, but being negative about how you confront them. So calling names, calling each other inappropriate things behind each other's back, like, or talking to other siblings about that sibling because they're upset with you, right? So being able to really have compassion for yourself and others, that does not include negativity, that does not include name calling, hurtful thoughts, and also that includes you being grown up enough to confront and use language about how you're feeling. So I feel this when you do this, right? So that way you can have real conversations and come to a resolution versus always being negative about other people and yourself.
Yeah, it's like if you're negative towards your other people and yourself, you're just going to keep, again, similar to the first point, you're going to keep just drawing that in. Like when you think about just the laws of gravity or motion, where it says the object in motion stays in motion. A mind in negativity, a position in negativity towards others is going to continue in a position of negativity towards others. And so it's just not a healthy place to be in. And like I said, their confrontation isn't a bad thing. Like Sharea just gave some really great tips about how you can have those difficult conversations. And so confrontation is an issue. Like if you're the type of person where you feel like, oh, well, there's something wrong with me if I can't just let it go or just, let it just roll off my back. No, like the problem isn't having a disagreement. It's more so just really how you handle it. Now, if you, like Sharea mentioned, if you start yelling and cussing out and calling names, then that's the issue. The confrontation isn't. And so, yeah, if something is wrong or something's going on, just have the conversation.
Yeah. And be certain that in most conversations and conflict, both parties don't, if you care for each other, really never intend to hurt the other person. Mm-hmm. Right? So if you really have a level of trust and care and security within your relationship, most of us are not looking or seeking to hurt the people we love, period. And that is where being able to have that compassion for yourself and others. And last week you talked about grace. And this is that same kind of concept where it's like, have the grace for yourself and others so that you can have a conversation that might include uncomfortable things, but doesn't have to get negative.
And really, it can also go into just your expectations. Is that, maybe your frustration or your irritation with the situation or the person could be that you have unrealistic expectations in regards to that person. And so, we have to be honest about the capacity of ourselves and also the capacities of people that we're dealing with.
That's why I left that dude. Huh? I said, that's why I left that guy. I was like...
Right, yeah, that the gentleman, he was, there were some really nice aspects of it, but I had to be really honest. And here's the hard part, is because of the fact that I'm trying not to say too much, so nobody know who it is. But I've known the legislator. I knew him for a while before today. Yeah, I knew him for a while before we had started talking, and so that was the other part where it wasn't, the history between us wasn't just us getting to know each other on more of a romantic level. Is that we had been friends for a long time before that. And so just having to back away was more so like, okay, I'm not just losing a person that I was interested in, I'm losing a friendship that I valued as well. Yeah. But, and so it's not that we're not on bad terms. It's just that now instead of calling and talking on the phone, I might like a social media post every few months and that's it.
That's all I got for you. Right. So my boundaries are like very different according to what was the negative action that was taken. Yes. Right. So not everybody's going to get cut off. Right. So I really feel like we are in this whole like cancel everybody. You did this, you get canceled and I don't need your negativity. And I'm like, but you understand that posting this is negative. Right. Like, when people are telling you that they cutting somebody else off because of negativity. And I'm like, so when you were writing this, that had to be a negative emotion that you were feeling. So you're also being negative. So should we cut you off? Like now. And, we've had this discussion ourselves where it's like, there are things called boundaries that doesn't mean you have to cut everyone off. And yes, ultimately, there are some people who do end up getting cut off, but that's not the only way to have relationships that include your level of standards, right? So I'm not going to deal with you no more. Well, part of dealing with me as an adult sometimes is having the conversation where you don't get angry and you don't get upset and you literally just have the conversation, right? Like, and if I decide after having the conversation that we can't be on the same level, then like you said, I might like a social media post, but I might not talk to you in months. And that'd be okay. So, be mindful of your own negativity when you're thinking you're trying to gauge or cut someone else's off, because that comes into like sort of like a self-check, like checking yourself a little bit, where everything that if we were cut off now, and here's another thing, if people cut us off the way and rate that other people are cutting everyone off right now, according to the mistakes that you made, we would be all cut off. Because think about it, like, because there's almost ultimately, unless, but here's the thing, and I'm going to try to make this as non-clinical as possible, like for a second, but most of us did not come from a secure background, which is like an attachment style under like attachment theory. And don't worry, I'll stop right there. But really what that means is that, most of us don't have the ideal makeup or background that shows that we are 100% secure in all of our relationships that we don't take negative actions in some way. It could be self-imposed actions or outward imposed actions. So the reality is that some of our own stuff could be reasons for people to cut us off. And sometimes that grace, that ability to be able to forgive is priceless because it allows you to move on, but it also frees up the other person from feeling as if they are tied into one mistake that they've made in a relationship with you. Right. So we joke about the guys that we were talking about, but the reality is that I release all of them with forgiveness. Yeah. Like, because I've also released myself in those relationships with forgiveness, and the importance of having that forgiveness for me is based off of my faith and being very clear that I would be nothing if God didn't forgive me. Right. And so knowing that, I'm real cautious on how I am in terms of negativity towards others and compassion. But I have a standard that says I am not going to allow certain things if the behavior continues. Right, knowing that difference. So Anyway, what's our next point? Because there's so many points within the points.
There is. I was like, man, we can keep going just off of this one point.
Yeah, because I'm like, think about the level of cancel. Like this whole cancel everybody now is just like
cancel culture.
Yeah, like enough. Like, you're going to get canceled one day because you made a mistake that we don't know about yet, right? Yeah. So just be mindful. Anyone can get it. So, sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, it's just like, I mean, ultimately, I guess what we can sum that point up with is just have boundaries, and have boundaries with people that includes forgiveness, compassion, grace, understanding, and realistic expectations.
You know, for yourself as well.
Yeah, when it comes to people around you, and definitely with yourself. Because again, just like when you come from a position of negativity, you're going to keep seeing nothing but negativity. So you definitely got to step outside of that mindset and change the way that you interact with people, and also the way that you speak to yourself, and how you deal with your own growth process as well.
Yes, like, so I think that summed it up. Because I can go with my little soapbox for this one. Go ahead.
We might have to come do a part 2 about this one.
Yeah, just that alone, like boundaries and cancels aside. The cancel.
Yes. All right. So the third point in the post is learn to evaluate criticism and let it help you grow.
All right. So honestly, most of us do not like feedback. Most of us do not like criticism, and we automatically think criticism equates to negative criticism. But there is constructive criticism, right? There's feedback that says that, honestly, you have space to grow like all of us do. The reality is that none of us are perfect. And I would hope that we all had space to be able to literally accept feedback. But in most cases, whenever we hear feedback or hear anyone saying anything that might help us grow, that doesn't make us comfortable, because that's the part, right? Our initial emotion is going to be guard up. Right? Our initial emotion is going to be, let's put my defenses up. Let me go right into defending myself. And it's most likely going to be a negative emotion that you're expressing towards the person that's just giving you feedback. So now, on the flip, not everybody's giving constructive feedback. Know the difference. Know that some people are literally out to try to make your feelings hurt, to try to do backslide compliments. They're trying to do certain things to kind of get under your skin, because that's where they are in life. But knowing the difference can actually help you grow, right? So anytime somebody throws out feedback, when I do evaluation, I'm in trainings or any other like item that person is giving me feedback on, what I really will do is check myself first to make sure that I didn't do those things, and or that wasn't my intention, and what I can do differently to make sure that my intention meets my impact, right? And so being able to really say to yourself, you're not perfect, so be careful how you receive criticism, when it could be really constructive criticism that could help you grow, right? And not everybody who is your friend is going to be the only people that give you feedback. Sometimes those people who you call your haters are telling you something that you might need to learn about yourself to grow. Like, I know we all so popular and important that we all have a like boatload of haters, but the truth is that possibly some of the stuff that they are hating on might be areas that you might need to consider looking into to determine if you need to check yourself in that area. If not, that's okay too, right? But to not do any evaluations about information coming in is totally different than thinking that people's opinions don't matter, right? Because I agree, how someone's opinion of me doesn't define me. However, I need to at least evaluate. If 5 people say her attitude stinks, if 6 people, her attitude stinks, then I get up to 10 and there's one person that say, well, your attitude don't stink to me, but you think their attitude stink. And then you need to do an assessment about maybe I'm not coming across the way I intend, right? So being okay with criticism not always being negative and not automatically going up into a defense when people are trying to give you feedback on possible areas you can grow in.
Yeah, because you definitely don't want to stay stagnant. You don't want to have just one type of people, or one type of person rather, in your life who's always just a cheerleader. Like nothing you do is like wrong. Everything is perfect. Like you got to have that mixture. Like I appreciate those people in my life. Like there's some, like older individuals at my church, for instance, that I can think of, like my church now, even that I grew up in. I could do no wrong. I mean, if I just walk outside just a couple of feet, oh my gosh, Sharea, you are amazing, right?
And you need that too.
Yeah, right. And so I appreciate that from them, because that helps me to be like, okay, that helps to reinforce the fact that I don't need to beat up for myself, that I'm not where I want to be. And so that was encouraging. At the same token, though, I would not grow if I only had those type of individuals. So I need the people like Sharea was talking about, the people who are genuinely concerned about your growth. And so they're really just trying to bring it to your attention so that you can be better. And even though people that said the negative things too, like you can always grow from it. And either you're going to grow from accepting the honesty in what they're saying, even if they didn't say it in the best way.
Yeah, like you might not like the messenger, but the message might be good.
Yeah, the message might be right. And so, or you can just grow in your discernment and understanding, okay, well, this is how I navigate this type of person. This is someone I thought was in my corner. I see that they're not. And so now I know how to put more boundaries in place so that, again, I'm not coming from a position of negativity, because instead of getting sucked into that person's opinion is really just, it has no value at all, then okay, you remain your positivity by saying, okay, I just need to put different boundaries in place with this person.
And I also would recommend like knowing your value circle, right? So who's in your inner circle matters on the level of their input on in your life, right? So with my clients, we always do we do layers of circles to kind of help you determine what your values are. So then literally we do a circle with you in the middle, and then you do different, like at least 4 circles where you put people and where their opinions and or the things that impact you in your life around your values are, right? So the guy down the street who you don't know name, his version of you doesn't matter as much as, say, your best friend who has been through thick and thin with you and can see some good or bad things. And when they tell you something bad, you don't like it, but you're going to have to deal with it because they've seen you from multiple sides, right? So they're in your inner circle for a reason. Like being okay with accepting that even that neighbor, though, if your trash can keep rolling down the street, and you never get it, somebody always bringing it back. When someone says, well, that person, you don't come off as considerate, then they have actual behavior that proves that you haven't been considerate to the rest of the neighborhood. That's feedback worth taking into consideration, but it doesn't mean that you're not a considerate person because they don't know you fully. They just know a behavior that you've taken. Correct the behavior, and just like that, it's not about negativity, it's about growth.
Yes.
Right? And that becomes the important part when it comes to feedback, when it comes to anybody trying to help you grow. Even when they don't know you, it's okay to really do like a self-assessment. And that goes back to the self-compassion. Do it in a way that's still very loving to yourself. You don't have to be mean or call yourself names, but you can learn from some of the criticism of those who are in your life, good or bad. Like, you don't always have to get all your criticism from just your mentor, like there's others that you can get your information from.
Absolutely. All right. So our 4th point is don't react to the negativity. Be grateful.
This is a hard one, right?
It is.
Because most of us, and not just, I know I'm guilty of it. Sometimes when stuff comes at you and it's negative, your immediate response or your immediate response is to defend yourself, right? And if it's coming negative, you most likely are going to try to respond negative. But the first thing I will say as I've grown older is realize that I don't have to give what people give me, right? If it's negative and it's not helpful, I don't have to in return give that same emotion to be able to get a result from them, because the possibility of getting a positive result is actually decreased if both of us are negative, right? And so I try in this one, when I added the part be grateful, is that you can actually control or regulate your emotions, right? You have in your power the ability to respond differently than the person responding to you. So yes, people can be negative, people can be ignorant, and at times bullies, but you don't have to receive that as the way you need to respond to them, right? And so that goes back to our standards and boundaries and all those things, but knowing that you don't have to be negative just because other people are negative to you.
Absolutely. And I mean, with that, getting into that position of gratitude means that you have to start somewhere, because the first time you try to do it is going to be extremely hard, because it's going to feel so counter culture, or counterproductive to kind of the situation at hand. But you'll be a little better person in the long run the more that you decide to practice that instead. And so, for instance, like if someone gives you criticism or says something negative to you, if there's value in it, take just the message, throw away the negativity, the connotation that it was said in, take the message, use that to grow. And so then you can be grateful for that one piece of information that's going to help you grow. And then just discharge everything else. Just be honest with yourself and just say that, hey, I didn't like the way the person said this to me. Mm-hmm. I didn't like the manner in which they were giving it to me, but I'm thankful that I can take this information and use it to grow and to become a better person. And so it's a thought process that you have to be really intentional about when it comes to even choosing not to respond to the negativity, mm-hmm. and to react to the negativity, and to be grateful instead. And just gratitude, it just repositions your heart and your mind in a way that allows you to not be unnecessarily stressed. It allows you to not be, unnecessarily frustrated, and to stay in a position that causes you to just not have contentment or peace, and then not be productive. Because sometimes one thing that somebody says to you sideways can just mess up your whole day. And here you may have had a whole list of things to done. You were halfway through your list before this person said ABC to you, right? And now the rest of your list is out the window for the rest of the day because of the fact that you're stuck in reacting to whatever negative situation or negative thing that was said to you. Is that be honest about how it made you feel, but then the way that you move out of that is, after being honest, is to find something to be grateful for.
Mm-hmm. And it might be just being grateful for the fact that you got the information and you also learned something new about the person to set new boundaries, right? So being able to find thankfulness and gratitude is not about the situation being perfect. It's about being able to walk away from the situation with learning something, good or bad. Sometimes you learn that people are going to be hurtful towards you. Sometimes you learn that people don't have communication skills that will actually benefit your relationship. So you might have to move on. You may learn a ton of different things, but you learn something. And being able to really say to yourself, all right, I'm thankful that I know now that I need to set in place boundaries that doesn't allow this person close enough to me where they hurt me. Right. So being able to really know that even though the negativity might be what you want to respond to, you can respond in a way that says, I've learned something, and in learning that, I'm going to move on. I've learned something, and in learning that, I'm going to set new boundaries. I've learned something, and in learning that, I know that I can communicate well, but my partner or the person that I'm friends with can't. So what I may need to do is shift them from a friend to associate. Right. So what did you learn that you can be grateful for, but also that could help you to grow as a person? And it takes time to get there. And sometimes you slip and you go back into the behavior of, if you give it to me, I'm going to give it to you. But the truth of the matter is that when we're trying to learn to control our emotions, I don't want to say control, because I don't know if we want to control our emotions. When we're trying to regulate our emotions in a way that doesn't damage ourselves or our relationships, it becomes extremely important to be constantly practicing gratitude within each encounter so that you can be aware of what was done right or what you've learned from it and what you can grow, how you can grow from it. Like those are really important just for most of us and most of our encounters.
Absolutely. And then another thing, just when it comes to the gratitude, you want to practice gratitude when things are going great too.
Yes.
Because because you want to start a new pattern of thinking, a new pattern of looking at things, a new pattern of even interacting with people. And Sharea actually has a gratitude journal. I'm going to throw that out there.
Yeah.
If you need some assistance with this, and the reason why I'm going to throw it out there, because I think it's 100 days, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it's 100 days of gratitude. It's a nice little journal. It gives you writing prompts. It gives you spaces to be able to write other things or thoughts that come to mind with it. And if you do something for 100 days in a row, it's going to be really hard to stop doing it.
It is.
If you're really consistent with it. And so, having that mindset, or that perspective of gratitude, it takes work. It's not automatic for everyone. And so if you're in that place where just gratitude is not automatic, it's okay. Again, going back to the other point, not being negative towards yourself, have compassion towards yourself. Maybe gratitude isn't easy for you, or having a positive mindset isn't easy because of the circumstances you grew up in, or maybe things that you have going on right now. You may not be in the best environment. And so in light of that, have compassion for yourself, but then take some tools that can help you to be better and to be able to navigate those situations. And again, to practice gratitude. And so the gratitude journal is a great resource for that, for you to be able to form a new habit. So now, not only when positive things happen, but when negative things happen, you can go back to that journal. You can go back to those tips and those coping skills that you learned, so that now you can be able to overcome the negativity. And like Sharea said, regulate your emotions in a way that causes or that enables you to continue to be content and happy and to grow.
And I think, it's oddly enough, I was going to do an announcement probably tomorrow about starting a new 100 days happy, healthy, whole. I finished up from January the 6th to, I think, whatever was April the 14th. And so I decided that I'm going to start again on June the 1st to do 100 more days of like happy, healthy, and whole. And one of the things that I tracked was my emotional health and working out those 100 days. So I definitely feel like the gratitude, the consistency of any action is always going to help, right? So here's the thing. People are always like, oh, I can't stick to anything. You're sticking to something. It just may not be good, right? So like when people say that to me, I'm always like, okay, well, whether you like it or not, you're doing something that you're sticking to, and trying to change or develop new habits requires you to stick to something new. And if you want to learn gratitude, if you want to learn how to make your body or your mind healthier, you're going to have to stick to something for more than a few days. And no, you're not going to always be motivated. And no, you're not always going to have like this voice in the back of your head said, I can do it. But you're going to have to find what your why is for you to do things. And for me, it could be like, for when I did the first 100, it was grief. Opening this self-care group that we do, it was because of grief. It wasn't really like, oh, I want to be able to get followers or anything. Literally, it was for me. It was selfish, and I'm okay with that. And what I learned was that I'm not the only one who may have been doing well with their emotions, but grief hits it different, right? And I need to check myself and do activities that will be consistent to get me back into routines that help me to be happy and healthy and whole. And one of them is gratitude. One of them, I mean, there's a number of them, people, but one of them is gratitude, emotional wellness. Like, how are you regulating your mood, and how do you determine if you're doing a good job at it, right? Because that's the other thing that I'm really concerned with related to people's mental health if they are isolated or alone, is that you are your own check. But if you're unhealthy, your check is also unhealthy. Right. So
that's a good point.
Think, like, when people are always like, oh, well, how are we today? Like with those mental health checks online with the little hearts or whatever, I'm like, be very careful that you might say you're fine, but is that based off of a place that is already so unhealthy that fine is also unhealthy? Right. So give yourself some idea of what having healthy emotions are by looking outside of yourself to receive them. Right. And that's neither here.
You were making so many good points.
I realized that was not the subject, but whatever. But the
We're
good
going to definitely come back to that at the end. Like I said, we're going to continue with the announcement because, again, good information. So I want to read the last point that is in this post that sums up just these 4 tips that we went over. So it says, remember, you don't have to be negative just because others choose to be. Remember, you don't have to be negative just because others choose to be.
So I'm going to pull out the word that I need everyone to hear. Choose. It's a choice, right? So whether we like it or not, everything that we do, good or bad, started with a thought that then became a decision based off of that thought. Even if it happens sometimes as quick as a second, it happens sometimes as long as days, right? But the reality is that you have a choice on how you respond. And part of having that choice is also developing the knowledge about how you make your choices or your decisions, right? So are you prone to be more negative because of your own experience in the world? Are you prone to be more negative because you're isolated, alone, and feel rejected or abandoned, right? So there's multiple reasons why your decision making could be based off of an unhealthy place, which means that you need to first work on getting to a healthier place to make healthier decisions. But the reality is that still everything that we do is a thought that becomes a choice, that becomes a behavior, right? And in that section of choice is based off of all the things that you might have been exposed to and hurt by and all those other factors. Because I'm not trying to downplay that everyone has the healthiest means to make a choice. Yeah. But it is to say that it's still a choice. And we need to learn how we're coming to those choices by learning if we are set in positive or bad or negative places. And so you don't have to be negative because others are. And I think we kind of talked about this a little bit, but if you think about the world that we live in every day as women, as Black women, as Black men, or whatever, or someone, like multiple identities live in a world where people respond to you negatively, period, right? How you respond to them is really your responsibility, right? And also, if you said something earlier that I think needs to be like one of the main points, which is that if you put out negativity, the reality is that the constant comeback will always be negativity, right? And so you also need to be really mindful that you're responsible for how much negativity is in your life, by also how much negativity you display or put out, right? I'm always surprised that people feel like things are happening to them. And it's like, well, they're happening to you because that's also the way you are to others. It's like you want something that you're not giving. You want love and respect, but you don't give love and respect to people. You want, you don't want anyone to cheat on you, but you're out here with multiple partners and you're not, and you're supposed to be in a monogamous relationship, right? So it wasn't an agreement, but on your part, right? So you can't, or you're negative and mean, and then you're like, well, why don't people trust me? Because you're negative and mean, you know? So it's almost like making sure that you reflect what you really want, and also you be what you really want. And I think if we talk about relationships, that could be just a whole list of things right there when people are like, oh, I want a man that's this, this, and that, or a partner that's this, this, and that. And I'm like, you ain't half of those. Like, I'm not saying that, you know, and not to be negative about it, but to just be real. Like, I want a successful person. I should be one too.
Yes.
Right? I want a person who treats me and honors me and respects me. I should do those things to myself and others too, right? Like, so making sure that your negative output or someone else's negative output doesn't have to be yours. And knowing that what you put out there it will be your reality.
Absolutely. And then so with that choice, that means if you can make a choice, that means that the choice to be negative and positive is always present. Mm-hmm. It does not mean that no matter what the situation is, and we are very well aware that there are some very dire situations that you can be put in. But no matter what is happening, there is always a choice to be positive or negative in any circumstance. Mm-hmm. And so you have to be conscious of that choice. One example that I was thinking of that hopefully this drives the point home as far as how you always have a choice. Think of when you first bought the car that you have. And once you purchased that car, you started seeing that car everywhere. Now, let me just break the news to you. People didn't see you driving that car. It's like, you know what? I want to be just like him or her, and went out the next day and bought the exact same color and make and model of your car. And now everyone in your town is driving the same car. No, it's just that because that now you made a choice to purchase this car, now this type of car, this color, this maker model is now more present in your mind and you're more aware of it. So now when you're driving, you're more likely to see that car everywhere. Those cars were always there. You just didn't see it because you weren't aware. It wasn't in the front of your mind. So it's the same thing with positivity.
It's the same thing with almost every area, right?
Yes.
So if you think about it, what you just described was that your brain now has access to more information that it didn't before or did not register as important, right? And so your brain didn't register a silver Honda, that's what I have, right, as important until you got one, right? Yes. And so it wasn't important to you. So they were out there and they were driving along, and the world has got a bunch of them. But until it became important for you, it didn't start being visible, which means that it wasn't attractive.
Yes.
And if we think about the word attractive, attracted, right? So when we think about the whole concept of attracting things, if I'm not even aware of it and I'm constantly doing it, it's coming to my awareness, right? So if I'm negative, no matter how much you think positive should come out, you're going to receive negative. Like, it's like a fruit, it's a tree, right? So if you think about even just our, from our foundational of our faith, right? You literally can't see good fruit from a bad tree. Like,
absolutely.
Like, no matter you can't have a rotten tree root and have it even grow past a certain level, because it will start to wither away and die. It can't give you something it ain't got. But if you see something is nourished, it's fed well, and Lord, is this a good conversation? Because that's talking about like the concept of really coming from a strong foundation of being healthy and taking care of yourself, and being able to say that if I love me, if I care for me, if I take myself positive, if I'm positive about me, if I have compassion towards me, if I'm grateful about my own life and the things that I have, then ultimately I can pull those things into me, right? Like, and in a way that is honest to who I really am, right? I love the fact that I have great people around me. I hope that I am that for them. Right. So when Sharea and I are off this camera, we are dying laughing. We have a bunch of nonsense conversations, but I can do the same thing with my sister. I can do the same thing with my sister-in-law, because we have enough. I hope that we have enough invested in our love that it comes out. Right. And that's where I think if we really think about it, you can have almost any of the emotions you want in your life by just starting to work on them. And that's where, like, seriously, for me, when part of the grief, the heaviness of the grief, I was sad all the time. I couldn't control it. It was eating at me. And part of what I even started the 100 days was, and even this group was about just purely saying, I need to start getting back to the positive and still know that these emotions are real. Like, I know that the love I have for my mom and my sister is real, but I also know that they both would have wanted me to be sunshine, to be happy, right? How am I going to do that if all I'm ever feeling is sad? So I got to be able to say, all right, this feeling is real, this sadness is real, this grief is real, but I also have to counter it with a choice to start being positive too. The love they shared with me, the love they gave me, the lessons. Like, literally, I'm sometimes talking to my adolescents in a clinical way, yes, but I'm hearing my mom. Like, and not in a bad way, not in a motherly way where she's like, don't compare, identify. I use that, and then I talk about a theory. And I'm like, I would have never thought that her lesson that used to get on my nerve was something that later in my life would be so beneficial in being able to really identify and be strong about who you are, right? I'm going off. I realize I just...
Now this one we may actually need to do a part 2 of this next week.
No, I really feel like if we talk about like the whole concept of, and people call it different things, law of attraction,
right,
karma. And when you think about those different things, it really is like you're the root of them. And when your root is hurting, when your root is broken, when your root is damaged by it, and sometimes it's not even your fault, right? And I really want to preference that, because I don't want people to think that I think you should just wake up one day and everything was perfect. You might have had trauma, you might have had assault, you might have had multiple things happen. All of those things are real. But how then do I start to realize that just because they're real doesn't mean that they have to be my reality now.
Right.
Right. I was listening to Bible studies, one of my Bible studies last week. It was last week or the week, whatever. It was some from last time before y'all saw me. From the last time we saw them now, one of these days, I'm listening, and one of the messages was really about your fruit is a reflection of your space. Like, that's a hard thing, because then that means I got to check me. Like, I got to check, am I the tree that I want, things to come out? Like, how does my fruit line up to my actual root? Like, anyway.
Yeah, so we're going to do a part 2 of this point next week. So make sure you guys come back, because you guys, listen, there's so much more that we can really say about this. Mm-hmm. So we're definitely going to do a part 2.
Yeah, I really feel like that one has got to be a part 2, because I feel like that when we could just do one on, like, next week we're going to do, I want to try to do the insecure, because I feel like this first, just women's relationships and our friendships are such an important part of who we are, and sometimes what we're willing to take in our male relationships, if you are heterosexual, what we're willing to take in our intimate relationships, just regardless of what your sexual orientation is. What you're willing to take in that is totally different than what you would take in your friendship. And sometimes we will bruise and batter other women while a man bruises and batters us. And that,
yeah, absolutely.
And that in itself is just hurtful to kind of like, to know that it's our reality as Black women, but it also is our reality as women in supports. And so we need to talk about that. But I also want to come back to this and talk about.
So then the week after next, we can talk about that point. So our next 2 weeks are set. So listen, you all already got the preview. So make sure you come back.
I apologize. I started getting it and couldn't stop.
Right. Everyone that's watching the replay, make sure you check us out for the next 2 weeks to continue these 2 really important conversations. So as we're wrapping up and giving our final points, I just want to see if anyone has any questions that they have for us. Thank you so much to everyone that is joining and commenting in the group. We're so excited to have you all here. So in these last few minutes as we're wrapping up, if you have any questions that you would like for us to address, then we'll go ahead and address those. But, ultimately, it's just that it's really important just to know, just if you don't hear anything else today, just remember this. You have a choice when it comes to reacting negatively, to taking in negativity, to holding negativity or having negative thoughts against yourself. There's always a choice. Mm-hmm. And with the positivity that we're talking about, it's not about a positivity that is fake or that's in denial of your reality. Sharea already brought in that point and talked about that a few moments ago. Yes, you're honest about what is happening, but then you're also honest about your potential. Because in that moment, yes, this incident occurs, right? Let's say if it's a negative situation, this negative incident occurs. That negative situation does not have to continue to reoccur and be played over and over and over again, and then to get you stuck in that incident or in that mindset or that perspective. It's going to take some work. It's going to take choices each and every day. It's going to
take some work. It's going to take some grace, which is compassion and choice. And self-compassion is really what grace is all about, right? Like, it's going to take work, grace, and it's going to take gratitude, right? So the message that we really want, and I'm going to really quickly, I have a few things I want to make sure we talk about, but I really want people to walk away with that choice is not always rooted in healthy and the ability to be healthy, to make the choice. So get the help you need so that you can make healthy choices. Be okay with hearing that none of us have had anything be perfect because we're not perfect, right? Yeah. But that also means that there's space for us to grow and to get love and to receive healing. And if we can get that support through whatever, some support groups, some therapy, a little bit of everything, right? We can get that support to be able to heal those areas so that we can be secure enough to make our decisions, right? So I always tell people that it's not that when people are like, oh, why do you trust others or you trust your husband? It's not that his behavior or what he has done or what he can do isn't there. It's that I trust my decision in him. I trust my ability to have a conversation with him when I don't like what has happened. I trust those things. So that way my trust isn't about another person, it's about me. and my security in my choices. I trust that I've gave enough of myself to tell what will hurt me and won't hurt me. And if you violate that, I also trust myself enough to make good decisions. Right? So that being said, I'm going to stop.
So really, it's an investment. When it comes
is.
to just like growing trust, having healthy and positive relationships, it's an investment. And you're already investing. So let's keep bringing that point home. You're already making an investment when you choose to respond or live in negativity towards yourself or to others. And so you're reaping the dividends of that investment based upon the condition or the status of your life, of your heart, your mind, your emotions, your relationships.
You want to know why it's status quo? It's because that's the choice you've made, right? If you don't like it, you got to do something about changing it. And that's okay, right? Like, it's okay. Like, it's okay.
Yes. So make a different choice.
Exactly.
So that you can you're making an intentional investment into the life that you want to have, the self-image that you want to have, the relationships that you want to have, and eventually you'll reap those dividends. Even when you think about from a financial standpoint, when you invest, let's say in the stock market, you don't make $1 million overnight, but it's the constant investment.
And sometimes you lose, right? Sometimes you lose a little bit. Sometimes you come back and you're like, why I invest in that thing? Because that thing wasn't a good investment. You got to move to something else, right?
Yes.
Sometimes Amazon ain't the good buy for you because you don't have the money that some other people do.
Right.
You know where you have to invest and when you have to move on from the investment that's not working. So I'm going to tell you what I told one of my adolescents yesterday. Someone on the outside can't heal what's wrong on the inside.
Yes. Absolutely.
Right? And so if you want to do something different, you got to make that conscious decision inside of you to make a difference. That being said, I'm going to stop there because I can go on and on and on, but I want to make sure that we give our wrap up on our coping skills that we talk about every week. And so I want to start with hydration. For myself, that has been ultimately one of the things that has saved me over my week of not feeling too great. And so hydrate, make sure you drink enough fluids, make sure you drink enough water on a daily basis. Sleep, make sure that you honor the fact that your body needs to be able to have a routine that includes a system or something that allows your system to rest, right? Give yourself what you need. So we said hydration, sleep, movement,
diet,
do some like diet and movement, right? So making sure that if you aren't able to possibly work out every day, take a 15-minute walk, take a break from your work that you might be doing with your jobs or your kids or someone else. Take a minute to have some time to physically move more for yourself, because that is going to also help you to be more and just help you to feel better and also help you to rest.
Do things that bring you joy.
Things that bring you joy and mindfulness, right? So being able to be present, find things that you can do that will allow you to be in the moment versus worrying about the moments that will come or the moments that have gone away, right? So be present. For me, it's coloring. For another person, it might be journaling or writing. For another person, it might just be having a conversation with a loved one each day that is positive only, right? So finding those things that are able to be mindful and present. And you said something about joyful, like bring you joy. Make sure you're also doing that in all the areas of your senses, right? So for me, that could be a bath because it feels soothing and relaxing. Another person, it could be sitting and reading with candles lit. Find things that bring you joy, but also bring you into a place of peace. Any other? Which one? Am I missing any other?
No, we summed them up. I think we summed up all the other ones like in that, because then we got more specific in the weeks before as far as things that find you joy. So we gave examples of that. So we talked about doing Zoom meetings, like, with friends or FaceTime, text messaging,
support groups and stuff.
Right.
And just
taking a walk, which is related to, movement. And
so I always will end on safety, connectedness or connection and hope. So remember to be safe, take care of yourself, make sure you're physically doing good things for your body and your mind, and have hope that, again, as the world sometimes feels negative, we have the control to turn off some of the world, to be able to regulate how much negativity we take in. Be aware, but don't be aware, but don't obsess, right? So take breaks where you need it for your mind to be able to rest and be healthy. And in terms of, that was hope and then connection. Just making sure that you spend good time with us next week and the following week. Continue to laugh, enjoy those who love you, give love where it's needed, support those who are in need. Some of us are able to be out and about to help. So make sure that you do if you can, and take care of yourself.
Yes.
Wait.
So what is say? Oh yeah, Sharea has other announcements though.
This is why I should have stopped talking earlier, because I couldn't help myself. But anyway, last announcement. So on June the 1st, I'm starting over my 100 days of happy, healthy, and whole. It was really helpful for me to do that at the beginning of the year. And so I figure I will do it again because it gives me an opportunity to kind of like do self check-in. And so I am probably going to go live either Saturday or Sunday, depending on the dates, because I can't remember what the date is, to quickly talk about what that will look like and to kind of give you an idea of how I'm going to be doing emotional check-ins on myself, as well as spiritual and physical. Trying to incorporate more than just one element of wellness and the importance of how it makes me a whole person. So I will be doing a live someday between now and the 1st to kind of give a little bit more detail.
So I want to say thank you to, so we don't have any questions, but everyone in chat was very active. So shout out to Miss Farmer, to Kelly, to Delina, and there was someone else that commented before too. Kelly. I don't see it in there, but thank you to everyone. Thank you to those of you for joining us. Yeah, to everyone who's watching too. Even if you didn't comment, we greatly appreciate your support. Yes. We love having you all here with us. We love giving out the tips and information and hopefully being one of your sources of joy, you know, as we are, all navigating this time together. So know that we really care about your well-being. We want you to be the best. That's why we keep doing these groups. And we'll keep having awesome, amazing topics for you to engage in. If you ever have any questions, of course, during the live broadcast, you can comment them, but you can also email or message us as well. Like inside this group, you can send a message directly to Sharea if you have a question that you would like for us to address, in one of our future broadcasts, and we'll definitely make sure to do that. So thank you all so much for watching, for commenting, for engaging, supporting, and know that we are here supporting you too.
Yes, that was fun. You guys be well.
All right, bye. See you guys next week.